Vertical. Yeah, emergency. Does the 2x, 3x programs have anything with the vertical jump? Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. It's one of our metrics that really helps drive the lower half approach, so it's a key part of it.
So go to the bathroom and come back.
Sorry, I'm setting this up. And so yeah, vertical jump is a huge part. So it's going to be in both the position player stuff, and the pitcher stuff. So do you recommend to get your arms stronger, Steven?
Yes.
Tell them about arm farming. Just kidding.
Arm farming. Those were the days, man.
I know.
David Ardsma and Bob Wheatley.
Yeah, arms are strong. The whole body needs to get strong. Better vertical equals higher velo. If you go to topvelocity.club, we put up some of our data. We have some research there, just looking at some basic correlations. Vertical jump had one of the higher correlations. I think it had the highest one. 0.6 was the correlation coefficient. 1 being perfect, which rarely ever happens. But so yeah, it's very important. We are big believers in it. Stephen, talk about where you think the vertical fits and everything.
Well, I mean, a lot of people start getting into, vertical force production. It's not sport specific to baseball players and pitching especially. That's what you hear a lot, like with Olympic lifts. People talk about like, oh, don't do an Olympic lift because it's not producing force in the horizontal or frontal plane. It's a sagittal movement. But then when you start looking at the force production, if you're looking at ground force production on a pitcher, if you're looking at studies that are looking at force production on a pitcher, the front leg is catching up to 1.5 times body weight and producing that in the vertical plane. So it is using vertical force production on the front leg. It's also being used on the back leg, and they found that it's later used as potential energy off the back leg. So if you're looking at force plates and you have an understanding of force plates, you would understand that vertical force production is used in pitching, and that's why you're starting to see a correlation to it. Also, it's because powerful people tend to be hard-throwing people. So if you have a baseball athlete who's played baseball his entire life and he also has an impressive vertical jump, that's really just showing you that he can express leg power very efficiently and very powerfully, and that helps with throwing a baseball.
So he said, what's up from Portland?
Portland.
How young can kids benefit from the King of the Hill?
My dad lives near Portland.
Heck yeah. What up, Portland?
Portland.
The King of the Hill works really well even for the younger kids. I think it's better at the beginner level because it really teaches you how you're interacting with the ground, and a lot of amateur pitchers, young pitchers, don't really have a good understanding of how to use their legs. So the King of the Hill is giving you feedback on what's going on, and it's feedback that your brain needs to really start understanding what's going on. So yeah, if you want to check it out more, and we have a program with it, topvelocity.net/KOH, I recommend a lot of young pitchers or players to use that because it's just a good starting piece. Best drills for shoulder separation. I don't know. My favorites are obviously our separation throws with our med balls, because in a two-hand position, you can't early trunk rotate and drag your arm, so you're forced to delay the shoulder and make sure everything comes together, with as far as the arm and the trunk. What do you like, Steven? Anything else you like for shoulder separation?
All of the med ball drills are going to be huge for it. The target drills are going to be big for it. And then obviously the biggest one, like people always want to hear like what's the best drill I can do for something, but in reality, like I'd like to talk about a lot is form is going to follow your function. So that's really where like assessments come in. So like, for example, if your trunk rotation is at 40 degrees of trunk rotation and you're expecting to have elite hip to shoulder separation, that's probably not going to be happening. So it's really more finding out what's going on in your body that's preventing you from getting good hip to shoulder separation, and how your strength and conditioning, mobility, and biomechanics training all work together to improve that.
You said what to increase velocity, Asaya, I don't know what you're asking. What to increase velocity? How can I get my hair to look like Steven? That was
Tambellini.
Yeah. What's up, Tambellini?
You the man, Austin.
How to increase explosiveness and force vector. So
Kid's a freak.
Explosiveness would go along with the vertical jump. Rate of force development, which is a big emphasis or a big proponent, or a side effect of Olympic lifting. It's something that Olympic lifting does really well. It helps you enhance rate of force development.
Right.
Force vectors are it's a good combination. So when you're talking explosiveness in pitching, we have to get it really directional, and it has to transfer in that direction up the kinetic chain. So force vector is important because that's what we call the ankle to knee. Basically, that shin bone is pointing wherever that's pointing. That's where your force is going to go. So if you're trying to be explosive on the mound, you want to get it in the direction of the target. So we have to learn how to align that. The challenge is with aligning it from the only leg that's on the ground, the drive leg, where you're going to generate force. You have to make sure you don't lose stability in the knee. When the knee goes internal, it loses stability. You want to be able to hold or resist internal rotation, hold external rotation while aligning force vector. So it feels kind of weird. You're turning back, and your force vector wants to move down, but it's just what's happening. The shin is laying down, but the femur is turning into it to hold and resist that internal rotation before you generate your explosive power. We talk more about that in the little lower half course I have at topvelocity.net/lower half, one word. Goes more into depth on that. How to increase vertical jump. Man, people, what's it? That's like 3 questions on vertical jump. It must be, they're getting it, right? So how to increase vertical jump, Steven?
Increase vertical jump. Well, I mean, one, don't think it's just like, oh, increase vertical jump, and that's like my don't be a Frank, if you will. You get the joke on that one. But
calling out Frank.
Yeah, don't just think it's just your vertical jump that needs to be improving. But when it comes to vertical jump, it's really just a simple way of looking at it is the force you're pushing into the ground to overcome gravity that's propelling you up into the air. So
Two studies showed Olympic lifting most effective way to enhance vertical jump. Why is Olympic lifting?
Those Olympic lifts.
Why is Olympic lifting would have that high correlation to increasing vertical jump?
This is one of the best for enhancing rate of force development. Some of the best to enhance dynamic athletic ability of jumping, running, throwing. You're becoming very elite at pushing force into the ground when you get good at Olympic lifts, especially when you're getting more towards that 1.5 times body weight. You're really good at overcoming your own body weight.
So I'll find some questions there. After 1 year of strength training, I got to 225 5 times bench, started at 95, and then 4 or 5 times deadlift, started at 135, and 315 times 5, started at 105 on squat. Is that good? Yeah, but there's no power measurements there. Like, I think where guys fail is they get good at squats, bench, and deadlift, which is fine, but you don't put in anything that trains that rate of force development. Meaning, what is rate of force development? It's not about how much force can you hold, it's how much force can you push in a short amount of time, right. Specifically like the less than 1 second, which is the pitching delivery. In Olympic lifting, the cleans and all the variations of the cleans is in usually that less than 1 second. So it's forcing you to generate that force and that rate of force development in that short time, similar to pitching, which deadlifts, bench press, squat don't do. So you need more of that explosive stuff in there with it. So it's not enough just to do those strength lifts.
Plyometrics are also a way to tap into that rate of force development.
Drills to keep front leg closed. So I always usually say front leg might be closed. It could be you're not driving your backside, so you're trying to keep your front side closed, but you're not driving your backside. So right. If I don't drive my backside and it just lays down, what I do is I start using my front side to drive or pull my hips open. Right. So a lot of times you're staying closed, you're just not generating power, so then your front side starts pulling. So it's really learning how to get that force to your backside as you stay closed. So how do you stay closed? A lot of times I tell guys, learn to drive, power through your backside, because then your front side doesn't have to take over.
Right.
Got anything over there?
Can you talk about the 3X coaches? Do they have facilities like yours?
Typically, not really. I mean, they're all kind of do different things. I'd say the one who has probably a similar one, of course, Zinger and Angel in New York. So, but not many. Like Linsky doesn't have the lifting stuff. Doesn't have, he works in different facilities. But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't expect them to have the same setup, unfortunately. I would recommend you come here, get the training here to the camp, and then go to them to help keep you, following up, reevaluating, and make sure your technique and everything is correct as you go through it.
Which Olympic lifter would throw the hardest if they were a pitcher? In parentheses, if power was the only factor.
I think if you went to the, I don't know, I feel like the little guys, they seem to be more mobile, but they're not as tall. I don't know, man. That's just the challenge. Yeah, because, I mean, but the thing is, who has the higher power to weight ratios? It might be in the lower end, but at the same time, too, who can sequence their body better. I don't know. Now, that's a good question. I've never tried to convert a Olympic lifter over, but what would you say, Cloco?
Yeah, well, I mean, just in terms of power output, I mean, he's going to be a big dude who's, you know, producing freakish amounts of power. So if it's just in terms of power output, I would say Cloco.
Pat Collin.
How often do your athletes throw the med balls? How many throws daily? Give us your programming full free.
Yeah. So, you know, that's going to be kind of specific on you. We do have our setup, but that's something where we recommend you get into the program for that, because it's more than just, you know, what days, and it has to do with how you're lifting implements with it, even how you're eating, and how it all goes together, and how it periodizes and moves up and moves down and stuff like that.
Can you go over the differences between squats and deadlifts? Which do you think is more important?
Go ahead.
They're both important. So I kind of like looking at it.
Taking the camera.
I'm sorry. I kind of like looking at it like how Dr. Sean at Active Life likes looking at it, where you should be able to back squat 80% of your 1 rep max deadlift. So if you start getting too dominant in one or the other, you start to see your movement patterns start changing. So for example, like in a squat, if you have somebody who's leaning his trunk really far forward and then he kind of deadlifts the weight back up from the bottom position, he's more likely a more dominant hip hinger or deadlifter. So I like to try to keep a balance between both of them. And again, that's kind of just in the programming where you're going to be, you know, certain days working on squats, certain days working on deadlifts to maintain that balance.
Can losing body fat correlate with an increase in velocity as long as I maintain my current weight but adding lean mass?
Yeah, absolutely. So body fat does nothing to help move the body. A muscle is what's going to help us produce force, help us move. A larger muscle has more potential to produce force. So if you're losing body fat but maintaining your body weight and essentially turning it more into lean muscle mass, absolutely, you're going to have more potential.
That's just a hard thing to do, because a lot of time when you want to lose something in body fat or body composition, you go into a calorie deficit.
Right.
And that can affect muscle regeneration, protein synthesis.
Right. You have to get very good at your nutrient timing, which is going to be like having protein, carbs 1 to 3 hours post-workout, and then protein, fat all around those windows. You just have to get very strict, and then your macronutrient splits need to be on point. It can be hard to do.
Hi, can I get more strength on me, decelerate? So here's the thing. In your strength approach, whatever you're pushing, you're pulling, whatever you're squatting, you're hinging. I mean, the point is like, you're really trying to always balance the body out. You're trying to build integrity around the joints. So you don't have to overemphasize. I know when you throw, you're forcing a lot of internal rotation, so you want to put those throws back. I get it. But in your strength approach, if you're already building good strength in your body, integrity-wise, balanced, I don't think you have to overemphasize all these deceleration throws. I mean, we don't do any deceleration throws, and our guys stay great because we have such a good, fully comprehensive strength approach, and I think that's the key. So a lot of baseball players fail in their strength approaches, so they try to like overemphasize, or they try to like put it into their throwing approach because they're not really, don't have a really great strength approach. So they do these deceleration throws, maybe they run more, I don't know. The point is, like, if you have a really good strength program, you should be able to just go out and do your drill work and throw, and and then you go back to your strength approach, which should be addressing all your shoulder issues and your scap issues and your hip issues and your core issues. I mean, so
right. Absolutely.
I don't know. Just that's a conventional thing that baseball likes to do. Do weighted balls help pitching velocity? Should you do them, and how often? Now, I've seen studies that say it helps pitching velocity, and I've seen studies that doesn't help pitching velocity. I believe, of course, it'll go either way. But the problem is I don't believe in the weighted baseball approach, because technically, if you disengage your throwing arm from your trunk and you drag your arm, and then that's already bad for you, and then you add the weight and the load on that, then it's even worse for you. It also desensitizes the arm, meaning it can force you to gain more external rotation, which could push you closer to end of range, which then if you went into a lighter throw at a higher speed and you peaked your velocity at the end of range, or peaked your torques at the end of range, you're just asking for it. So I don't like the mechanical issues that it brings. I don't like how you're just trying to force the arm to adapt when there's all these other joints of the body that contribute as much or better velocity up the chain. So we typically avoid that approach. I mean, we'll use it sometimes for drills, but definitely we don't use it to force the arm to adapt. Can you check my DM for power clean form? Yeah, I'll work on that, Dom. That Nolan Ryan versus Chapman video was awesome. Hey, I'm glad you guys liked that.
Cool.
Dom asks, if I take my power clean from like 170 to 2215 when I'm throwing top 85 at 170 power clean, if I get to 25, would my ball velocity go up a lot? You know, it might. The problem is here's the thing. Think of it like a hose. If you got kinks in your hose, but you keep forcing more water into it, it might not give you more pressure at the end. You got to get the kinks out of the hose too. So yeah, we want more water power coming through, but we also want a more efficient hose to release that energy. And a lot of guys don't understand that balance.
That's such a funny analogy.
What do you think about strength training on machines instead of Olympic lifting?
Boo-boo.
It's not safer.
I don't know.
So actually, I'd
don't
say
like it
it's more safe to do the Olympic lifts than the machines. Here's the problem: it's called pattern overload. Machines force you into specific patterns, which can more quickly break down or fatigue those muscles. So studies show when you move a bar, you take a different bar path every single time. So when it's free weight, it's a different bar path. And then when you're forced into that bar path, like you said, you're going to fatigue those muscles, because the reason the bar is moving is to distribute the stress. If a certain muscle groups are breaking down, it'll shift and kind of balance it out, because the body's at threat to something shutting down. If your deltoid just fails and shuts off, and then you're throwing with your arm, you're going to be more vulnerable to damaging that joint. So I don't know the studies on this, but I think the reason when the machine weight training came around, they thought it was going to be a better approach, a more isolated, safer approach. And I think it actually was the opposite. That's why free weights have still been more popular.
Right.
What are a couple things a 12-year-old can do for leg training? There you go, Steven.
12-year-old can do for leg training. I mean, I don't know. That's going to come more down to like what you feel comfortable with. I'm assuming this is a parent, so what you feel comfortable with as a parent. If it was me, if it was my kid at 12 years old, I would start getting him into technique work, where you're using really light weight, but he's starting to learn the techniques of certain lifts like squats, hip hinging, maybe even some power clean form, but just that really light weight, so he can start getting his technique down. So by the time he starts getting like 13, 14, 15, he can really start pushing into the strength and conditioning and not have to worry about learning the technique. It would just give him a little bit of a head start. That being said, stuff like medicine balls is going to be cool for a 12-year-old kid. Like I like doing just like stabilization stuff, like overhead lunges with a med ball, some sort of med ball throws, just stuff that's demanding similar movements that he would be experiencing on the mound.
Check out some more over there. So, Steven, they want a Lincecum and Pedro comparison next.
Oh, that would actually be
All
really
right,
cool.
let's do it. Hey, Matt, can you tweet that out? Tweet out that so I can use that question, because that's a great question. You got something over there?
If you have $500, what would you buy for home training, med balls, boxes, etc.? Well, when I was in college, I think I got a squat rack and like 400 pounds of bumper plates and a bar. I think I got it for like $400, and that was like a steal. Like that was pretty awesome. So I found that on Craigslist.
And you can find that all the time.
Right.
Like I think you should go to Craigslist or some type of like local listing of
Craigslist
for
or
sale
Facebook.
stuff, yeah. And you'll get it dirt cheap,
Right.
and you can get a whole set of weights. If you need a target, you get thick canvas. I saw some the other day kind of do similar what guys do with those walls where they put like the rubber on the wall. You could use that as a backdrop, and then get your 2-pound med ball. That shouldn't be more than $30, and you're good to go at that point.
I know 1.5 is a good power to weight ratio on power clean, but what are good strength ratios for squat and bench?
I say 2 times body weight or more. That might be too.
For 1.5 for bench, though, right?
I say a little bit more than that. I feel like you can bench more than you can clean. Like if I was cleaning 300, I know I could bench 350. So I feel like you can do a little bit more than you're clean with your bench. Sometimes I would say 1.7. I think 2 times even on squat is pretty not crazy. Like I think the harder one is the power to weight ratio than the strength to weight ratio. So, but you can say 2 times on your squat, 170% on your bench, 150% on your clean, or 130% on your clean would be ideal. What are some good drills to teach 12, 13-year-olds to use their lower half more when pitching? Thanks. I did that whole training series on it. I think you get some good stuff out of there. The topvelocity.net/lower half, one word. And these King of the Hills, the Velo Pros, even the LTE harnesses, they're all great tools. Follow Coach Linsky on Instagram, Nuke. I think it's Nuke Baseball. He works with a lot of the young kids. I love what Coach Linsky does. He's always around with us, going to be with us at ABCA. I'm a big believer in, just teaching them how to use their legs, how to move more athletically, more dynamically. So you should be training them athletically to move as much as you're putting them in drills and teaching them biomechanics to use their lower half, because it's just being more athletic to me is using the lower half. Anything you want to add to that?
I didn't even hear the question. I was reading.
It was right. It's basically 12 to 13-year-olds. What do you think are the best drills for them for learning the lower half?
12, 13-year-olds, starting at the med ball drills and the target drills, but using like a 1 pound ball for like a 12-year-old, or a basketball, just something really light.
Yeah, starting from there.
Right.
Why do we do the med balls? It's a two-handed throw. You can't use a lot of your arm. You can't drag and whip your arm. Your arm has to stay engaged with your trunk. It has to just transfer energy with your trunk. So it forces you to get more trunk involved, more hips involved, more legs involved. That's why we like those. What velocity do scouts look for in high school, freshman year? If you're trying to play college baseball, going into your junior year, a lot of guys are already committing. I know the one thing with committing is they're not like legal contracts, so they can pull it on you easy. But you do hear a lot of guys junior years committing. A lot of those teams are making their recruiting list, or they're setting up their scholarships. So meaning you're going into your senior year, a lot of those teams might say half of their stuff is already gone, but it's not the end of the world. So the thing is if they're signing guys, they're committing to guys their junior year, they're probably already mid-80s at that point if you're looking at really good colleges. So I'd be shooting to be in the 80s freshman year if you could. Ideally, that's tough. Sophomore year, if you really want to have a great opportunity. Now that needs to be healthy, because you got to pitch 3 years like that and then get into college. So you got to make sure that that's healthy. I wouldn't be pushing it if it isn't healthy. That's something you should work for in your off season.
Also, too, you can go on Perfect Game, and for your age, like if you're in high school, they'll have that class, the average velocity and then the peak velocity, and that's an incredibly large database, so you can get a good understanding of where you're at.
Right. What do you think of the West Side barbell
Conjugate
system for pitchers? Strong 8 in St. Petersburg has gained velocity with that, also implementing FRC mobility. Yeah, I think, look, strength development, plyometric, mobility work. I mean, it's really the foundation of what we've been doing for 12 years, maybe 15 years. So anyone else doing a version of that is going to have similar success. I would say we will have more success than them. Why? Because we focus more on power than strength in our training. We focus more on biomechanics than just throwing. So when we can do it better, because I believe our programming is more explosive, built for more explosive power on field, and we can biomechanically train it more to convert better in our drills. So that, I love hearing that, but I know we can still kill those guys because they don't have the knowledge we have on getting getting a better result at the end of the day. Anything you want to add to that? No?
Yeah, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I love that they're incorporating strength and conditioning at heavy weight, and they're not babying people like a lot of people want to do with baseball players. But like Brent says, just the biomechanical aspect of it. We are so much more advanced than I believe anybody in the industry on taking your mobility, your athletic assessments from your speed, strength, and power, taking your nutrition and being able to blend them all together and map them towards the biomechanics that you want to see on the mound for both performance and longevity.
Can you share any thoughts on weighted box jumps? I think that's a great power approach. I know you're probably trying to compete with the Olympic lifts. To me, you'll never truly compete with the Olympic lifts because how much is that weighted, vest going to be that you put in your body? It's not going to be 150% of your body weight. But it is a really great approach. We do use plyometrics in our approach. We use box jumps. Problem is, though, to be honest, what's safer, a max clean or a weighted box jump? I would say a max clean.
Right.
I've seen more guys get injured in box jumps than any other exercise we do. So that, honestly, that would be a tough one unless, because guys just trip and fall on that all the time, and that's a challenge. Any info on med ball throw velocity to pitching velocity? I always say it's hard because there are two different weights and speeds. I always say you could probably double the weight, and that's where you should be. It's a range, right? We're going to be in ranges. So, but here's the thing: bigger guys can throw the heavier balls harder than the smaller balls. The smaller balls, they need more speed, so the bigger guys typically have more strength, so it works with the bigger ball. But you do see, unless they are using two different deliveries between the two throws, and that's our goal, is to make sure they use one delivery. But if they're using two different deliveries, you're not going to see a conversion, but you should see, as your med balls get better, you should see your baseballs get better if you have those seamless deliveries between the two. I live in Canada. How can I do the program when I only have like a few months available or being outside? We're typically in a gym all the time. We're 45 feet in a gym. So if you can get 45 feet in a gym, you should be able to do this. That's the best thing about our approach. We don't need a lot of distance. You got something over there?
I'm a junior in high school, topping at 84, sometimes 85. Could I get D1 or D2 or D3 college offers at the moment?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for probably like D2 or D3. D1 would be definitely more difficult if you're topping 85. They typically want to see a little bit more towards the high 80s, low 90s type of range. But going JUCO is not a bad option for like guys in college. Like if you are, you're in that range and you want to go play D1 and you don't want to commit to go playing D2 or D3, you can go to a JUCO, give yourself a couple of years to build some stats and continue training, get that velocity to a higher level, and then try to transfer to a D1. So that's what I'd recommend. Like if your heart's set on going to D1, or if you're just trying to go play some college baseball at that velocity, you should be able to go play D2, D3, definitely JUCO.
What do you guys think of the Bulgarian squat method? So typically, what I know about the Bulgarian squat method is it's a max. I think it's like always maxing.
Squat every day.
Squat every day, max, pretty much push to your max. Here's the thing. When we have guys that are plateauing, I think it's a great method, but that's for guys that are advanced, that have spent a lot of time in a strength approach, definitely way past the beginner phase, have gotten, like I said, more advanced and are starting to hit plateaus pretty frequently. I think it's a good method at that point. Would not use it any time before that.
Well, you also have to remember with the Bulgarian method is when that was being popularized, they were using that to beat the Soviet Union. They were a smaller country. They were trying to beat them in gold medals for Olympic weightlifting. Drug use, PEDs were extremely prevalent during that time. And that's really what was helping them with the recovery on that, because if you try to do that squat every day and squat really heavy all the time, it can be dangerous if you're not recovering fast enough.
Yeah, right. You got to deal with recovery issues. Someone did a shout out to Delgado, my JUCO. Talking JUCOs, that's a good JUCO. I know you've got a ton over there. What's going on, man? Don't skip them.
We're switching off.
Think about coming down again, maybe just a thought. Look, it's Peyton. It's Peyton. Coming down.
No, dude. No.
Peyton.
I'm just kidding, Peyton.
We love you, Peyton. You can come down. We haven't seen you in a while, man. You threw us off, dude. He goes, it'd be fun again. Hope everything is going good, dudes. Yeah, we're going good. We'd love to have you down, man.
Yeah, come back, man.
Haven't heard the name in a while. We have to bring up some Peyton jokes now. I know you guys hear these kinds of questions all the time, but what velocity is expected out of a 6'1", 150 freshman? We can't predict any of that because we don't know your, body composition. We don't know anthropometrics. We don't know much about you. So it's hard to say that. I mean, like you said, your goal is to get into the 80s in the next year or two, ideally, and healthy, right? You got something over there?
Yes. What are your thoughts on pitching hitters backwards and the potential stress on an adult professional's health?
Doing
Pitching hitters backwards and the potential stress on adult professionals' health.
I'm
Like
confused.
pitching hitting back, like meaning like throwing off speed instead
go
of
ahead.
attacking with a fastball. Well, I mean, it's a really interesting time in baseball right now with all the Rapsodo and StatCast, and teams are collecting data on everybody's. Oh, that sucks.
Sorry, keep going. It does
On
that.
everybody's pitches, and they're going to be, looking at movement angles, all that different stuff, and then they're also going to be looking at swing percentages. They're going to be looking at weighted on base average based off of those pitches. So like you'll start to find, maybe somebody's curveball is at a really elite spin rate with great movement, and he's getting a ton of swinging strikes on it. Basically, people are having a hard time hitting it. So they'll suggest, hey, maybe you should start throwing that pitch more. And then the whole pitching backwards comes into play. So that's definitely an option. I think it's dependent on each guy and what their stuff is like, and something that you would look at in the off season and discuss with a pitching coach on moving forward attacking hitters.
Sorry about Instagram. It crashes. I think we overloaded. We're overloading Instagram, and it keeps crashing on us. So if you had a question not answered, ask your question again. Sorry, it went off. Any other good question over there?
What do you think of DST? I don't know what DST
Yeah,
is.
that's used to be Ron Wolfworth's guy, I think. Dynamic strength training down in that's where Alex Bregman is, down in Houston.
Cool.
Yeah, I like what they do. Nothing against them. I don't know much about them, to be honest, but I've seen them. They've been around the industry for a little while.
This guy says, why does Steven look like he just woke up? Because I didn't want to do this, and Brent made me come over
Yeah,
and do this.
I made him do it. What's a drill to work on internal rotation? So is that internal rotation of the femur or the throwing arm? If that's internal rotation of the throwing arm, what causes internal rotation is external rotation. So resisting external rotation by forcing internal rotation, your internal rotators, fires you into internal rotation. So working on internal rotation would be that the action-reaction of external rotation, loading external rotation, and firing internal rotation. Now, you don't have to get crazy there because we're going to get energy up the kinetic chain. So that's just a sequencing thing. It's an arm path timing issue that you need to learn. So when your trunk comes around, your arm can ride that trunk and then release some energy out of that movement. So it's something we do with like footballs, because footballs force you to pronate, because not only is your arm external rotating, internal rotating, your forearm is rotating. It's supinating to pronating. So same thing. We have to resist supination as we lay back, and then that fires it into pronation. So it's just learning the sequencing of the arm, and it needs to work with the trunk, and then it solely can't be the generator. It has to funnel energy coming up. So we do a lot of that in the 3x pitching velocity program. You got another one?
Watch all your videos. Quick question: how often do you throw med balls and Olympic lifts on programming?
We don't give away our. It's because it's not like we can sit here and we could go over the whole map.
Oh, it's pretty. Like 3 times a week for med balls, and then 2 times a week for Olympic lifts, and those are on specific days.
Yeah, and the thing is it's the reps are through specific. We have like these 3 drills in each 2 different series, but you got to understand you're using each rep to implement better mechanics. So you got to study the mechanics, and then you got to combo it with the training, and the training has to be periodized to make sure you have loading days, unloading days. There's a lot to it that we put in it.
There's a lot more over here. Would Olympic lifting help more than a deadlift?
There you go, Steven.
Okay, well, again, you're comparing a strength lift to basically
You're also
rate of force
pairing a
development.
hinge to a hinge and jump.
Yeah, so they're both going to complement each other. Like you need strength, like we've talked about, but you also need to be able to rapidly tap into that strength.
Because there's a hinge in the clean, so the deadlift can train strength through the hinge and the posterior load, but then there's a jump, and it doesn't train the jump.
Right.
So the jump is, trained mainly through the Olympic lift.
Right. So you have to be able to think of strength as just like your overall horsepower, but you also have to have the RPMs to be able to tap into that horsepower very quickly. That's what's going to be able to accelerate you. So that's That's why if you have a guy who can say deadlift 500 pounds, but say he's only cleaning 200, or say like vertical jump like 24 inches, he has a lot of strength, but he's not good at rapidly tapping into that strength. And you have to be able to rapidly tap into it in pitching. That's why it happens in 0.1, 0.2 seconds. So that's why you need both. You need a deadlift, but you also need to be able to tap into it rapidly. Olympic lifts help with that.
What's an estimate of your injury rate, athletes trained? How healthy do your pitchers stay on average? How often do you think we get a serious injury?
I can't think. I know of there's the AJ Martucci, but he started getting into weighted balls at a very popular weighted ball program. Other than that, I can't think of anyone. I've done this for 4 years. I can't think of anyone that we seriously injured requiring surgery.
I had a guy when we first started who wanted to play in 2 leagues while doing this training, wound up tearing his labrum. I warned him not to do that. Had a guy who said he was doing the med throws when he tore his labrum, and then he told me he was doing a 27-pound, I'm sorry to laugh, he said he was doing a 27-pound weighted med ball, and we restrict it to 2 pounds. So, I do believe, and of course a lot of other organizations that are in different methods can say, if you just follow what we say, you're going to be safe. But to be honest, if we look at those who follow the program as we've recommended, we don't. We get sprain, strains, and tendonitis.
Right.
We get that. We don't get serious injury.
Requiring surgery, right?
Right. Because it's our focus the whole time, is these velocity gains efficient? That's what we keep focusing on with them. Hey, good gains today. Was it efficient? How'd you feel? Your arm's hurting? Well, it wasn't a good gain today. A lot of other approaches will have that arm pain and will ignore it. We don't. We actually look at that as a negative, and it's almost like starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Any way to get the Olympic-based workout calendar without the expensive bundle? Well, there's 3 off-season. Well, there's a beginner Olympic lifting program. There's 3 levels of different Olympic lifting program in the off-season. There's a preseason Olympic lifting one, and then there's a in-season. To be honest, that's really what you're paying for. So I can't take it apart because that's everything that you need, plus all the throwing drills and the biomechanics. What is one exercise I can do at home to improve velocity? At home, do this program at home. I mean, I don't know. It's since the beginning that we've done this, everyone's looking for the easy way out. The program is where we have to recommend it because this is hard, guys.
David says we're ignoring Periscope.
Oh, shoot. Is this Ardsman? Is that DA?
Yeah.
What does that signify? David, I'm answering these, David. You're just not listening, dude. Or you just chimed in.
Yeah.
Daddy David's getting on us right now. Yeah, I answered most of those, David. So the one we answered on the weighted box jumps, we were saying how it is another way to enhance power, but I feel people do that to compete or alternate or find the alternative for the cleans. And we're talking, if we're looking at a safer way of training, I'd say the cleans are safer because more people injure themselves on a box jump, specifically when it's loaded. And then how much can you really load a box jump? You can't load it up to 150% of your body weight. So, I will include them, but they definitely will not be a core of our training and will never be an alternative to an Olympic approach. Let's see what else we got. How about David, give us a question, David, or tell us something. Give us some wisdom, David. We need some DA wisdom. We need to do an MLB minute again with DA.
I miss David.
I know. We need the bullpen with DA.
David.
We need the bullpen with DA, right? Any way to only get no, we need to do that. When you do behind periodization with your athletes, beginners, when do you do behind periodization? What's behind periodization?
I don't know what that means.
Or maybe it's just beginner periodization with your athletes. Pretty much when they come in, or our training starts with a beginner program, and we're implementing Olympic lifts, but if they're really young, we'll even have them just do like a Dynamax ball, like a 10-pound, 15-pound Dynamax ball, and actually go through the clean delivery and before moving into the barbells. What's a typical mound velo you can expect from someone with a low 40s med ball throw?
That's
Typical
up
mound.
top is 43-1, but I can't reliably hit.
I mean, you could be in the low 80s. Low 80s probably is where you are, I'd guess. What would you say?
I mean, yeah, like again, I feel like too many people are taking the med ball throws and taking those numbers and like thinking that those are, you know, a direct correlation to like what their velocity is going to need to be. It doesn't necessarily work that way. Like Brent was talking about with the hose, kinks in your chain, you can still take a med ball throw and have a guy throw them really hard and have really bad biomechanics doing it. Just like a guy can take a baseball and throw really hard and have really bad biomechanics.
It's why we still have so much injury at the MLB level.
Right. So I mean, it's I would say it's almost easier to start throwing 40 with the med ball, especially if you're a big guy, and be doing it wrong. Then your biomechanics aren't mapping to what would transfer to a baseball.
DA just said, "Hi, Brent."
What a flirt, dude.
You gotta love the DA. The man, the myth, the legend, David Artsma.
Oh, the stories. The images.
Just the training days. We miss the training days, David.
Yeah, David's the best.
He is the best. Still, not many guys can compete with his work ethic. I will put Trevor Rosenthal up against you, though. I think
Trevor Rosenthal would eat you alive, David.
He's a beast. He said, "Miss you, Steve."
Yay. That made my day.
What to do after you finish the 4-month 2X program? Well, it's a 8 week, or it says 4 month, right? Sorry. Recycle. So you can recycle. You can recycle any of these.
Well, 4 month. Well, what if you're
Actually,
going into season though? Then it'll go to preseason.
All right. So if you want to take
time recycle,
we don't have it programmed in season. Do you have the 5 tools programmed in season?
I have an in-season, periodized in-season model that's just going to follow a 3-week like load to unload parameter. So it's just basically a maintenance model.
If you want, you can go upgrade to 5 tools. You could take the 2X and split it in half, each week in half for an in-season approach. Just do half a week 1 week and then the other half the other week, basically, because that's what you're doing when you go in season. You're cutting back. Thanks. One other question. Recent study has shown 4 to 7 ounce baseballs aren't causing injury in pitchers. If these studies keep coming out, would you consider 4 to 7 ounce? There's no study showing that it doesn't cause injuries. Like if you're talking about the driveline study, that study didn't have any velocity gains. So it comes down to this. When they're gaining velocity, is it causing injury? When they're not gaining velocity, is it causing injury? You might find that when they're not gaining velocity, it's not causing injury. But when they're gaining velocity, it has a higher probability, because it makes sense, guys. That's how it works. So the point is, I'm not going to be excited about a method that when it's not effective, it's safer. Why would I be? I knew this question was going to come out.
Well, I think you have to be careful, and this is why third-party research is so important, is because theoretically it's not biased towards one solution. So you really got to be careful on taking advice or saying a study that's saying, hey, we're not finding any injury off of a program that is built off of, you know, selling weighted balls to people. So
it does. I mean, it makes you question it. It makes you question it. It says caution. But to be honest, I mean, that study. Hopefully, I'm always honest. But that study is that I saw. Maybe I saw it wrong. But that study showed there wasn't a velocity increase from that study. I'm not interested anymore. Like, why are we doing weighted balls if they're not improving performance, right? So now I'm not interested.
Well, the whole thing is like, so we go back to Reinald's study is one of the few that's been a third-party study, and he found a 25% injury risk with the weighted balls. And then all the weighted ball fanatics want to say, you know, this, that, and the third to try to discredit that and throw it out the window. But if you read Mike Reinald's argument on it, it's really that he's not even against weighted balls. He incorporates them into his program, but it's the dose that they're being incorporated at. So I think it's pretty safe to say at this point with the evidence that the popular weighted ball approaches that are aggressively using them for arm speed increases or arm strength increases, which isn't what happens physiologically when you're training with weighted balls to increase velocity, you're prone to injury using that. It's a backwards approach. It's treating the arm as the force generator as opposed to using the legs, hips, and trunk to create the velocity like we work at here. I think over time, as you're going to see probably in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that I'm hoping the baseball industry starts waking up to that and starts moving more towards our side of the training, as opposed to using the arm as the force generator.
Yeah, once
and that
again,
goes for long toss
right.
too.
Once again, like what I don't like about the weighted ball approach is it's a backwards method.
Right.
It's loading the end of the chain. I want to load the trunk. I want to load the hips. I want the end of the chain to funnel energy. I don't want it to be loaded and slowed down, be forced to be overcompensated. I just don't like the method, guide. I've stood up against it. So there's no way really. Like I said, I've got 7-ounce throws in some of my biomechanics drills for purposes of, hey, I'm slowing the lower half down. I don't want to speed the arm up, so I'm slowing the arm down. But just for specific moments like that. So I do have it in, but it would never go full-blown throws for forcing the arm to adapt. It's just a backward method.
And in your off season, like that's not even getting into the biggest cause of arm injury is overuse. You're 5'5". Look at this with my hand. 5 times more likely to injure yourself if you're going through overuse and not taking 3 to 4 months of a year.
And if you're throwing fatigued, you're 36 times more likely to have injury. So if all those throws are fatiguing you and then you're throwing the next day, now your injury rates are even higher.
The bottom line is this, and I implore you to go read medical journals and studies on what they're finding on how the kinetic chain approach and the overuse and stuff like that. It is weighted ball approach through an off season at high intent to increase velocity is feeding into the arm injury problem.
Period. Prove us wrong.
No.
And a study that comes out that shows, hey, the torques weren't that bad, but there was no velocity gains, makes me think that they're barely throwing the balls just to get the result that, oh, the torques aren't there, but ignore the fact that they didn't even force an increase in ball speed.
Okay, so if it didn't increase velocity, then what's the point? It's like going back to the same argument. Like if you have on the on-deck circle, they're done research into swinging the overweight bat so that you get the placebo effect of improving bat speed. Like you feel like you're swinging the bat faster, but the studies are showing you're not swinging the bat faster. In some cases, you're swinging the bat slower. So what's the point? There is no point. It's just a placebo effect.
Right, and that's what a lot of you guys are probably caught up in. You just like it because it feels cool.
Right. Or
but the studies aren't showing that it's cool.
Running, gunning, and seeing those high numbers and patting your chest about it.
Yeah, and then we talked about that. Like, we're trying to get guys to throw 90 consistently in game situations, low stress. We're not trying to get them to pop it like, circus freaks so they can go tell their buddies that they touched 90 out of a dead sprint. Like, who cares?
Right.
We want this to translate.
I see so many people on social media right now, like showing like before and afters, and they're doing a running throw and looking at the mechanics of the running throw and showing how it's improving. I laugh at that because that's not your on-mound mechanics. That's you're comparing something that you're running as fast as you can, and the body does orient itself better in that full speed moment. But it's not what you're doing on the mound. You're comparing a static position to something where you're sprinting as fast as you can in 60 feet and then throwing. That's not how you throw on the mound.
So
like,
it's not. So it's not skill specific.
Right.
Like baseball works so hard to get sport specific, right? They don't like traditional lifting because it's not sport specific, but yet you like a running throw that is different biomechanically than a static throw off a mound. So therefore, it's not skill specific, but you like it. So there's a little bit of insanity going on in the conventional wisdom of baseball that we need to clean up. And that's when we get educated. That's how we clean it up.
Right. And I'm not poo-pooing the tool of running throws, but to the extent of what it's been taken to in the baseball industry come on.
Yeah, I mean, I do a 2-step throw. I don't like getting too much momentum out of it. I do enough to get a little momentum where I still have to drive and use my lower half, but I don't go crazy with it. Isaiah Spencer says, if he upgrades, he goes, hi, I've already had the 2X. Can I upgrade to the 5 tool? How much?
David's being funny. But what
if
did
he
he
upgrades the 5 tool, how much?
For what?
From the 2X. But I mean, we don't really have a way of doing that. I mean, it'd be up to you if you want to discount it. But
so like the way.
Just reach out to you. Tell him to DM you.
Yeah, just DM me. I'll try to work something out with you.
He also said, how's the lawsuit going, Brent? So with the Bauer lawsuit, filed my supplemental responses, and staying in the line, whatever. I don't want to get too much in the intricacies, but we've gone to that point. I don't know what the next step is. I do have some good things coming with it. I've been talking to some nonprofit organizations that want to support our efforts. So I don't know. I mean, I think I'm in a really good place. I'm not that worried about it because, like I said, I've been learning the First Amendment. I think more people need to learn the First Amendment. We're protected to express our opinions. even talking about people, using people's likeness, writing unauthorized biographies, and I really believe that I'm in that protection, and that's why I feel pretty confident in this. So. What's David saying over here?
He said, first of all, F you guys.
Why do you say that?
And he says max velo shouldn't be until a week or two before the season.
Max velo shouldn't be a week or two before the season.
Oh,
Very
he's probably
good.
talking about like running.
Okay. I think you got to hold it, but it ain't doing this. Let me see. There you go. Cool. What else is DA saying?
That's all I said.
Is grip important to a pitcher? It is to throwing your pitch, but doesn't correlate to velocity or spin rate. Actually, I don't know if I did it to velocity. I need to do it to velocity. I don't think it'll convert. It'll correlate that well. But it didn't correlate. It was horrible. It wasn't even close to any type of strength in the correlation to spin rate, which is interesting.
Grip strength?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was like horrible.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: when you release a pitch, yeah, you want your fingers to be pressing, but your wrist is back. It's in flexion, and the ball comes out in flexion, and then it goes into extension. So there's not a lot of, when we do grip strength, that's a lot of forearm strength. That's really where we're pulling down. Maybe it helps you on a breaking ball. Maybe it'll correlate to a breaking ball where you have to kind of get some of that extension, but it doesn't happen with a fastball. Anything on there we missed?
Gosh.
Dude, look at the YouTube's going crazy.
How soon should a pitcher be ready to throw max velo for a February showcase?
Well, David said what? And the DA said, David Ardsma.
I think he's answering something else.
David Ardsma said you shouldn't max.
Oh, sorry. Max velo shouldn't be until a week or two before the season. Are these questions like out of order? I'm confused. Am I reading it?
I don't know.
Are these the most recent ones and these are the old ones? Okay. I did this out of order. Sorry.
Okay.
So he says, how soon should you be ready to throw max velo for a February showcase? The DA said max velo shouldn't be a week or two before the season. So to answer your question, if it's a February showcase, a week or two.
And if you want to know who David Ardsma is, look him up. 10-year big league pitcher, 14 different teams. He's now a pitching coordinator with the Blue Jays. So
Okay. I'm not.
follow the DA, the DA 53. Follow him. He's a good dude. Sometimes. I'm just kidding. He's always a good dude. Where would I be able to get the 45 feet like you mentioned before? So that's our programming uses a 45-foot distance. So that's in our program, and that's the distances we're working.
And you guys claim Rosenthal worked as hard as me. F you guys.
For reference, I top 89. Okay. 100% hands down. Check on that. 100% hands down. The program is the best that I've ever did for my career. Thanks.
Now DA says, or
Trist.
a week before the show.
Appreciate that, man. Love guys who are having success. Let's be a testimonial, right? If my coach is making me do a weighted ball program, what should I do? All right, there we go.
Here we go again.
This is tough. So, I don't know, guys. If you can't sit down and talk to them, which would be the first place to go, if you think that would just enrage them, unfortunately, I would probably tell the coach, it's hurt, my arm hurts. Every time I throw, I'd be like, my arm hurts, can I just calm it down? And I'd throw them nice easy. Or I just sit there and throw them nice and easy, low effort, and if he starts saying you need to throw him hard, I'd say, coach, it was killing my arm really hurts. And if he tells you to throw through that, you're on the wrong team.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
I'm laughing because you're in a bad spot at that point.
But this is ridiculous because I've heard this so much this year. We had a guy just here at camp that was trying to dodge it, and
we had a guy in camp who
changing
blew
schools.
out. We had a guy in camp who blew out
Right.
and had to have Tommy John surgery because the coach forced him to do it.
So this is like
right in front of the coach.
when all of this stuff and Brent was really taking a hard stance against it, I was almost kind of like look, like let people make the decision for themselves on what they want to do with their career, and I still think that way. But now that it's getting to the point where coaches are forcing the kids to do it, and it's not even their decision anymore, and like we've seen with the study showing that there's a 25% injury risk, and then you're forcing a kid into doing that without even having the option, that's unacceptable. Like, that's not okay. That is not the way the baseball industry should be going.
Class action lawsuit at that point.
Absolutely. Like, that's ridiculous. If you're a coach and you're forcing your kids to do a weighted ball approach against their will.
That some of the very few studies that are looking at injury over time are showing high injury rates, and you're forcing them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Is Hempton important to raise the arrest? What is that?
I don't know.
I'm 5'10", 140 pounds, throwing 80. What is a good weight for me, and how hard would I be throwing? What is a good weight at 5'10", 80 miles per hour? I mean, here's the thing. When I was working with the Rays and the Dodgers as a biomechanics analyst, doing scouting reports on their pitchers for the draft, looking at all their top, 100 guys, I'd say 195 to 200 was the average weight. So even at 5'10", I'd be pushing you close to 200. Why are you ignoring Facebook? Oh, that's Spencer. I know I was, but we got to you. Will y'all have a camp over winter break? Yes, we do. Go to topvelocity.org. We got that there. I think I got to you, Spencer. Do Kelly start stuff at home? Mobility good. Steven's got a certification with Kelly.
I sure do.
He also says, yeah, but if you use weighted balls, you're hacking the connection.
How do they work? They just do.
Eric, now he's back. Look, he's going between Instagram and Facebook, Spencer. If I already have the 2X, can I upgrade to the 5-tool? He didn't get that, so tell him what you said.
I said.
Well, actually, no, I read that again. I think you already got that. DM me on that. What did I do if my coach is making me do the weighted ball program? We already answered this, didn't we? Did I go back up?
Maybe it's a new guy.
Is 65 top fastball slow for a freshman, and what can I do, coaches? Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to force you. I was a late bloomer, so I was probably throwing 65 too. You just need to start building. I mean, you can't wait much longer. Like, you got to get into development. You got to get into strength and conditioning, a good strength and conditioning approach. You got to start learning the biomechanics. You got to start doing drills to train those biomechanics. You got to do what we do here, man. I think that's the key.
But
Go ahead.
Long-term approach to that. Sorry.
Yeah. C, the greatest real estate agent in the world. Love this program. I mean, Super V. C, he said he had today to make the greatest sale in history. C, did you make it? I just want to know. Drum roll, please.
My money's on C.
Did he make it? Did he make the sale? Oh, he's fine. He's celebrating right now. That's probably what it is. He's celebrating, drinking champagne.
Of course.
Seriously, he was selling La Provence restaurant. He had today, or it was going in foreclosure.
Well, I hope you got it.
I hope you did it, C. We want to hear the good news. Like you said. No, I don't know. Is that a mad face? I think he's showing a mad face. Just got 80%. Don't try.
No, just go 80%.
Just go. Don't. Oh, he's talking to him.
Don't try to talk to coach. Coaches are hard heads. I agree.
Yeah, right. But I would even go 80%. I'd go 65. Wait, so what is the upgrade after 2X program? He said, hell no. C didn't make it. Oh, well, C. We were rooting for you. We were rooting for you.
We'll get you more business.
But I mean, that was a big feat. I mean, you would have been the greatest ever. Wait, so what is the upgrade for the after 2X? If you want to upgrade to the 5-tool, so they just DM you if they want to upgrade to the 5-tool?
Go ahead and DM me.
Stephen Godani.
Godani. No big deal. Push my name.
I can't pronounce anybody's name. Do you think Tread's program?
Do you think Tread's program with the weighted balls?
Guys, once again, it's a weighted ball program to me. I like the guy. The guy will talk to me. He's a nicer guy.
Yep.
I'd have any debate with him about it, but once again, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of the high intent weighted balls. I don't know much more about it as a program. Yeah, I don't know much about his stuff, so I'm not going to shoot it down. I'm just going to take my stance against high intent weighted balls because it goes across the board. A lot of guys use it. Grip strength correlates to velocity, though. I don't have the data showing that. Can I work on using my lead leg at foot strike to get power? I feel like I'm throwing the ball too close to front foot strike. Well, you're not separating. The lead leg is a brake, and it needs to be strictly used as a brake. What drives your momentum is obviously you falling, but also stabilizing back leg and it peaking out of back leg. Then your front leg needs to break that energy, and you need to delay your trunk into it. What advantages are there to 5-tool program over the 2X? Go ahead, tell them why it's better.
I don't want to get into why it's
fine.
better.
Just tell them.
It's not.
We can compete here.
I'll
tell you why mine's better. I don't even know your program. I haven't gone enough into it.
So the 5-tool program is just, I designed it around how strength and conditioning, when it's done to build explosive power, you're able to improve all 5 tools. And then there's going to be drills, medicine ball drills for the hitting, medicine ball drills for the throwings, right? And then, how it's going to improve your sprint speed, and how when you're doing that through an off season, it improves all 5 tools. It's going to improve your base running, it's going to improve your fielding performance, it's going to improve your throwing velocity, it's going to improve your ability to hit for power, it's going to improve your ability to hit for average. So it's really just taking a biomechanical approach, it's taking a strength and conditioning approach, it's taking a mobility approach, and then you pair it with the nutrition program, and you have a really good off-season, preseason, in-season, year-round training program to build yourself into a beast athlete as a position player.
And if it doesn't sell anymore, he's thinking about adding weighted balls.
Funny, man. Real funny.
No, I meant any recommendations where I would be able to get that 45 feet to do program any indoor facilities. I don't know, man. You know your area. Can you search? I mean, I'd look for anything. Racquetball courts would work. I'm having trouble with the power snatch. I can get the weight up, but I can't keep my arm locked and squat with it. So we don't actually coach the snatch just because it requires a lot of upper body strength, and we typically don't have enough time with guys to do that. If you've been through all of our level 3, you should have it at that point, and we do implement it a little at that point. So I don't recommend it. I'm not going to recommend it here when you're a beginner. I think that's something you need to advance to. What other explosive exercises besides for cleans are best for pitchers? I hurt my lower back and tore my hip flexor and am not able to clean anymore. But you can throw 95. That's the problem. Like, if you can't clean, how can he throw 95, Steven?
I just did a post on this. That's kind of the laughable thing with baseball right now. Is like they're saying don't do cleans or don't do Olympic lifts, because you're going to injure yourself, and you kind of want to laugh in their face because baseball has one of the highest patterns of injury, especially requiring major surgery for baseball players, which is the arm injury. So you're kind of just sitting there like, you guys are saying don't do this, and yet you created one of the highest patterns of injuries in sports. Why should we listen to you? So a clean is a full body kinetic lift where you're transferring energy from the ground up through the kinetic chain, and you're doing it in the same time period as you're going to be pitching on the mound.
And at 95, what kind of stress are you putting on your back or on that hip flexor at 95? Well, he's saying he can't clean because his low back pain and hip flexor torn. What kind of stress is but he still wants to throw hard. So it's like, what kind of stress does a 95-mile-an-hour fastball ball put on your back and your hip flex?
I mean, it would depend on your mechanics, but
the point is just as much as a clean, right?
I guess, yeah.
Well, it's going to be different. It's going to be rotational torque in the spine, but tons of stress into your hip flexor when you try to throw that hard. So if you can't clean because you're worried about your back and your hip flexor, you're not going to be able to throw hard.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Yes.
What I'm saying is, like, yeah, that's like Dr. Sean Pastuche with Active Life. When people come up to him and say, hey, every time I hurt, every time I squat, I get hurt, so I don't want to squat. And he goes, well, that's a great mentality. He goes, and if it hurts to pee, you should just stop peeing too. So, but it's like, that's the mentality here. We got to understand, you've got to fix why your back hurts. You've got to fix why you've torn your hip flexor and how to prevent it from tearing again. And in that process of fixing it, then you can get back on the horse and you can start building power through an Olympic approach. You can start throwing 95 again.
Right. Well, and it's like so many people too, like you just think like all we do is cleans. Like that's not all we do. So if you have a hurt hip flexor and you have a hurt lower back, you have to use exercises to strengthen your lower back and strengthen your hip flexor so you can get the symptoms of that pain away so that you can get back into doing cleans again.
Very good. All right. Dude, we're getting way behind here. Jeez.
Dude, well, goodness gracious, man. Everybody's got questions.
That's cool. Let's see. Periscope. Does a shorter arm circle decrease risk of injury? So studies showed that pitchers that were more in flexion, it was healthier for the arms, but then pitchers that were too much in flexion could get more horizontal adduction. So there's a range here. And for too long, that could probably add to drag. It could mean you're too rotational and you're casting your arm. If you're too inside 90, you could push your elbow forward horizontally adduct, and which is going to take away, or is going to put more stress in your elbow. So it's a range. I usually somewhere around 90. I wouldn't say too far outside of 90, too far inside of 90. Somewhere around 90, your arm will want to lay back and turn over and ride your trunk better, and it won't cause problems. So I think that's, when you're saying a short arm path, it's got to be somewhere near 90 degrees. Not necessarily. Still need separation. Okay. David's throwing in some good tips on here. All right, you got something over there?
Yes. What is more effective at building the explosive power for pitching? For squats, fast reps at submaximal loads, or maximal loads where the reps are slow?
I didn't hear it. You answered.
Okay, sorry.
You answered.
Okay. You're talking about for squats, submaximal loads or maximal loads. So you're really just looking at the different, you're again looking at time and how much time it takes to produce that force. So at a very heavy load, you have all the time in the world to produce force. It's a slow movement. You're producing lots of force, but it's just a slow period of time. When you go into a submaximal load like below 30%, you're just dropping the weight so that you can move it faster and start tapping into more rate of force development. And both of them have their place. Again, all you're doing is just saying like a different way to try to increase rate of force development. If you follow our approach, you know that we think the best way to increase rate of force development is going to be Olympic lifts. Submaximal loads with the squat is just another cherry on top that you could add into it. Plyometrics are also something that we use a lot. All you're doing is you're comparing a force lift, which like I've said before, that's going to be like your maximum horsepower that you can produce in your car. When you're going to a sub-maximal load and you're trying to move it as fast as you can, you're trying to tap into that force at a faster rate. You can do that with that way. A more effective approach is going to be building it through the Olympic lifts, building it with plyometrics, and then you can kind of add in that sub-maximal stuff just to play around with because it is effective.
And what do you get at a camp? So in a camp, it's going to be, you're going to get all of our programming for pitchers, or if you're position players, for position players. We even have the hitting program now. He has, oh, actually that's separate. But that's separate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that separate.
Sorry.
Oh, no, we are doing that. I think we are adding it.
We'll talk about it.
All right, let's talk about it. No, you're right. I think we are adding that in.
Okay.
We'll talk about that, yeah. And then you get the evaluation, and you go to topvelocity.club. You're going to see your profile be listed there with the evaluation. You're going to do the biomechanics analysis. We'll sit there and walk through all your biomechanics, show your sequencing. We'll also take you through all the drills. So you'll be instructed through all the drills, do a video analysis through the drills. We'll take you all the way through all the Olympic lifting, instruction through Olympic lifting, do a walkthrough of how it all lays out, how the periodization works, how to follow the program Monday through Fridays, and how to cycle through, how to work towards your goals, nutritional program with Steven, and that's it. So the key is you come in, you get all the programming, you get your baseline, which is where you're evaluated. We show your goals, where you need to be. We talk about specific things of where you're struggling with and how the program's gonna help you through it. We instruct you through the program to help you come in every day and train and eat to support that and to get to where you want to be. So that's what's in the camp. You got a question over there?
Yeah,
what is the youngest age you recommend for your program? I'll take them at any age. It really needs to be kids that are inherent, that have a temperament for this, that want to really serious about it, want to love it, want to study it. I don't enjoy it and they don't do well and they waste their time and money coming in here. The guys that are just like, it's not really that big of a deal to them. It's got to be something you're really passionate about. It really has to be passion.
Right. This guy says, do you use KVS technology at your facility? No, we use 4D.
Yes.
If you could maximize every aspect in a player, perfect height, perfect weight, perfect mechanics, perfect mobility, what do you think the human limit is to pitching velocity?
I think you get Chapman, 6'8", 290. Chapman in his body type.
You're describing Aaron Judge.
Exactly, but he's not a pitcher. But
he's
the
not
point
a
is,
pitcher.
right? But you get that on the mound, moving like Chapman, and you get 110.
Well, I mean, if you're just playing around with it, if you could do any of it, then an 8-foot guy who's 400 pounds, who moves as fast as a Aroldis Chapman or faster than the point is like you could take it as far as as you want. There's just no such human that exists like that. Like what you're looking at, I think Aaron Judge is the biggest player in professional baseball. Is he not?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's in the 98th to 99th percentile of size-wise of professional baseball players.
And I guarantee if you put him in, Altuve's body at the how he moves through his swing, at the rate of force development, even biomechanically, I would say he wouldn't be close to as good as Altuve. I think he would learn to adapt, maybe, catch up to him. But the point is like, when you see guys in those big frames, you don't really see guys moving their bodies as well as you see someone on the other end moving their bodies. And so the thing is, you start getting him to move as well as Altuve does, as quick, as fast, in that big frame, like meaning taking that little frame of Altuve and scaling it up to the size of Judge, you'd even have a better player.
Right. Well, I think that he's talking about too, like just the limit of pitching velocities, like that. Is 110 miles per hour.
The limit
possible?
is built
115
on
miles
the.
per hour possible?
It is. It's built on the body.
Right.
But if you get a bigger, stronger, faster
my
body,
point.
you're gonna get a bigger. You're gonna get more velocity.
That was my point. So like he was saying, like you could go, like if you could make a person, basically, he's like create a video game. And I'm saying, well, then you can make an 8-foot guy who's 400 pounds who moves like Aroldis Chapman.
Right.
You're going to have 115 mile per hour throw.
Right.
As long as the tendons can hold up.
Someone said, do they continue all this training we instructed you through and evaluated through from the camp? Do you continue on your own? Yes, you can either do it here. We have housing here. Steven's got a house. I've got a house. You can live here and train. We don't charge you for the training because the camp included all that. We do charge you for the living if you need the space. Or you can go home. You have all the programming. You can go home and do it yourself as long as you get the weight room and you get the little, you get the target with the med balls, 45 feet. You'll be good to go. Look, it's Maldonado.
Mr.
Every
Matt
day.
Maldonado.
Dude, how much did your 91 mile an hour thing blow up?
Yeah, goodness
That was
gracious.
unbelievable, dude.
Mr. Popular over
between
here.
you and Prospect Dugout, I think you got almost
60,000 on yours and however
Yeah,
much
no, it
on
was
theirs.
like almost 60, but it was like
No,
seven.
I saw it. It was
60.
60,000. I was
So
looking
it's
at it the other day.
77,000. We're almost rivaling Prospect Dugout on that. So you got almost 150,000 views. Dude, insane that you got that many views.
Second most popular to Colin Shaw, though. He's holds
He's
the
got
number
100?
2 spot. Colin Shaw had about 98,000.
Wow, on your platform?
Yeah.
How'd you cheat that
'Cause
one?
I'm a freaking social media whiz.
How many times a week should I be going to the gym? We're typically here 5 days a week. Well, actually, you could say 4. Should shoulder press or military press increase pitching velocity? Yeah, upper body strength will support it. Talk about how a good rotator cuff program has the similar effects as weighted balls.
Well, it was, we were at Mike Reynolds' pitching convention in Boston, Massachusetts, and he was going through his talk. And he was talking about how he has a study that progressive arm care program can increase your velocity up to 3 to 4%. That's the same percent on average that the weighted ball studies say that it increases it. So absolutely, a shoulder press or a military press is going to help with overhead strength, overhead stability, scapular function, all of those things. So I think it's really funny when when baseball in general is like, no lifting overhead for pitchers, no lifting overhead for pitchers. Again, going back to, we have an incredibly high pattern of injury, and we're saying that they can't lift overhead, which is where they need a ton of strength and stability to be able to safely and effectively throw a pitch.
That was the most ironic thing with Chris Medlin. So we had Chris Medlin in here, 2-time Tommy John. He had nothing but rotator problems. He was retiring. He came in here, he gave us 2.5 months, missed spring training because he was late, and training here, and goes in and throws 110 innings, and they interview him, and they're like, what allowed you to come back like that? And he goes, to be honest, all the stuff we did, and then he talked about everything we did, but he said, some of the key things for him, he said, was my overhead strength. He goes, just building my overhead strength, he said, my joints just felt like connected, like they didn't feel like my arm was going to fly off anymore.
Right.
So it's just amazing hearing someone who was a phenom in this game, who was pretty much destroyed his career from injury, said, when I started lifting overhead, I actually felt like I was strong enough to pitch again, or to handle the stress again.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, the Chris story is awesome, and it's definitely a testament to it. But I'm just about to put out, I was reading a case study on the rehabilitation of the shoulder using a kinetic chain approach. I don't know if you've seen the study. You got to read this study. And it was one of the first ones that I started seeing them mentioning dumbbell press overhead as a great way to start building, once they've progressed through in their rehabilitation, to start building the connectivity between the kinetic chain and the functional movement.
Because what happens when you get in the overhead press is your whole body's shaking.
Right.
And the whole system is having to hold this up. My shoulders aren't just having to hold it up. The whole system's having to hold it up.
And we were talking about too, like the other day, we were talking about like the retraction and tilt of the scaps, and then the
upward rotation.
Like with dumbbell presses overhead.
Well, older man works with us. He was telling me how great his shoulders got, and he can only get his shoulder to here. And he said he's been doing all this work on his overhead, but his shoulder only goes to here. And I said, well, look, if it was really good, it could go up to here. And he was like, wow, I didn't know if I could do that. I was like, well, what do I do? I said, just start with light dumbbells and hold them over your head, see how long you can hold them. He said he took 6 pounds, and he said he held them for 1 minute. and he said he thought his arms were going to break. He
Damn.
was just like, and he thought he was strong, but he didn't have that overhead strength, that overhead stability, and people don't understand what overhead strength is. Like, did you really understand what overhead strength was until you got into this training?
No, I mean, I didn't really, no.
Right. Like, once you start getting up there and you start holding weight up there, you build up to it, you be able to stabilize, you can walk. Like, that's why Active Life has really done a good job in educating people on how important it is to be able to stabilize all the way up the chain.
Well, how important good functional movement is.
Yeah.
Because it's with baseball, they're like, don't lift overhead because you might hurt yourself. Or a lot of times they'll I start running into impingements on my arm. But then, like we're talking about, then you're expecting to go into season and throw 70 innings at 85, 90, 95 miles per hour, and you expect you're going to stay healthy with an impingement. Like, you have to figure out what's causing that impingement, clear it up to be able to do good, healthy, functional movement so that you can stay healthy in game.
A big ninja. I power clean 225 for the first time yesterday. Woohoo! Thanks for all your help. Congrats, dude. That's
Cool, man.
a great milestone. Keep going. Drills for hip shoulder separation. We talked about some of those in the beginning, or did I get thrown back to the beginning? I'm confused about the way 2X program is structured. What are the two systems in it? Do we run them simultaneously? Yeah, it's a 4-calendar system, and you follow those 4 calendars as listed in the program. If you don't want to do the speed technique training, you can skip that and do everything else. Anything over there?
A lot.
Guys, we might not get all of the questions today. This has been pretty cool. This has been our best one so far. Hey, Steven, see, you got to do these more because this is the most questions I've ever got.
What do you guys think of conventional deadlifts and trap bar deadlifts?
Go ahead.
I like the conventional deadlift approach more. The studies are showing that it's gonna be better for building posterior chain strength, specifically in the hamstring, whereas a trap bar deadlift is really more of like a squat. It's gonna be more quad dominant. So really, when I see a trap bar deadlift, what I'm really seeing is like a quarter squat.
And that's the irony here. If you're an organization or player who's doing trap bar deadlifts and high school basically deadlift squatting, you're doing the same thing. So squat, it's the same thing. Like,
it is.
What are you doing any different here? Now look, when I go deadlift, straight bar deadlift, I'm leaning more forward, I'm pulling through the posterior chain. I mean, literally, a trap bar deadlift and a squat are the same movements.
Right.
You're just doing the same movement.
Right.
You
So
know?
I mean, then it goes back to then like is that really a really good functional movement as opposed to someone doing a full depth squat? Like, which one is really demanding better human movement? A trap bar deadlift or a full depth squat? Or take it a step further, a power clean from the floor where you're going to the bottom of a squat position, getting into your power clean setup, transferring that weight through the full kinetic chain, powering it up in the same movement as a pitch. Like, which one's better here? You're training your central nervous system superiorly with the Olympic lifts. You're going through a more functional movement pattern. A trap bar deadlift is the easiest lift you can do in the gym. That's why baseball coaches love it, because it's just plug and play.
2 reasons organizations implement trap bar deadlifts and traditional, squatting for lower half training is because, 1, they don't know any better. They don't really have a strength degree or kinesiology degree to understand the differences or what we're trying to really do and develop lower body or total body strength. And then, or 2, they've got such a mass scale of people to train. They're overwhelmed, so they just give guys the simplest thing to perform.
Right. Don't get hurt. Here, do this.
Right. Like, like, could it be any more simple, guys? Look, could this be any more simple? Could this be any more simple? So that's where you're getting stuck in that. So you need a lot more to develop an elite athlete who can move through all planes, sophisticated and dynamic. It's not going to happen in a simple expression of squatting or strength in a trap bar deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer, I think a lot of people approach squats and cleans the same way people try to throw. They just do that one thing and don't build the support they need, so of course they get hurt. I did that with squats back in the day. I was 2.5 body weight, but I didn't do any other legs and didn't have great mobility, so I got hurt. To be honest, the big problem with people getting hurt with squats is they don't do core work. So they have these weak cores, and then they throw all this weight on, and their lower back can't support it. Their hips are flying all over the place, and they get injured. If you can, and at the same time too, if you can hinge and you can build and you can crunch and you can stabilize, really good weight, then you should be able to squat good weight. So to me, guys are slacking in their cores if they're hurting their backs. That's why front squatting is important, because it's forcing your core to turn on way more than a back squat. I find most people are hurting their backs in a back squat. A lot of guys are pulling their obliques in a front squat because it's way more core dominant. That'd be my opinion.
Well, and a lot of baseball people don't periodize anything, and they just go to lift as much weight as they can.
And they go way past failure, and they're a mess.
Right.
You know, I believe that's all the way up to the big league level.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What's the
100%.
closest y'all will get to North Carolina for a camp?
Hopefully in North Carolina.
Hell yeah. Please find us someone in North Carolina we can go with. Referring to the comment about being hurt to the clean, yeah. Great advice on cleans. I've had no pain in my back and hip for a month now, so I feel like I'm ready to start cleaning again. Good for you, man.
Slow and progress.
Yeah, start slow. And that's the thing, guys. Everybody wants to make their gains so fast, so they start overloading weight, and then the body can't stabilize, and then you get injured.
Right.
Now, like I said, once again, we have never had serious injury in here, knock on wood. It's all been sprains, strains, and tendonitis. So in our periodization, it's had a tremendous amount of success. You need to be aware of that. I represent a pro pitcher from the LMB Mexican League who is a year out from Tommy John. Joe Bateman. Joe, the stupid Facebook cuts off the comments.
Here it says see.
Yeah, but you click
more.
and it won't do it.
Oh.
We've done this before.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Also, I have been using the King of the Hill along with the lower half videos and have seen some velocity gains. I would love to come to a camp this offseason just to convince my dad, hey man, I understand.
Come on, Dad.
Gotta save up for it. Please talk about Bauer and BS lawsuit. So, talked about it earlier. We submitted our supplemental responses, basically following up with our disclosures and their disclosures. You know, they asked for things, we asked for things. But at the end of the day, like I said, I feel really strong about our stance behind the First Amendment. I think more people need to read about the First Amendment. When this case is over, I'm going to get probably really heavy with you guys into the First Amendment. You need to understand your First Amendment rights. I've been working with some nonprofit organizations to help me get better at this and understand how we're protected here, but we do have a strong voice online when we're expressing our opinions, and others, you know, it protects us from trademark infringements, right of publicity, damaging someone's likeness. So we have the right to talk about people, and we have a right to talk about their movements, and we have a right to put up their copyrighted material and analyze it and talk about it. That's protected by the First Amendment. So I feel very strong in this case. I think we're going to come out on top. That's my opinion. We'll see. Still a lot of more steps to go through, but you guys need to read your amendments. Like, I mean, I do too. I've been reading my First Amendment. I've been learning a lot about it. Here's the thing, guys. Your rights could be taken away right now, and if you learn more about them and you search more of these lawsuits or any of these things going on, you can get behind them. You can donate to nonprofit organizations that are out there strictly to protect those amendments. And that's what I would recommend you do. So learn about your First Amendment right, guys. It's an amazing amendment. It's the first one, and there's a lot to it you need to understand.
Wake up, brush your teeth, then immediately start learning about your
First Amendment rights. But it's true, guys. You're going into college, like that, you know, or you write a review online, and it's a bad review, and that company wants to sue you for review. You have a First Amendment right. It will protect you, and you shouldn't walk around in fear of, you know, criticizing someone. That's not what our country stands for, because that's dangerous, guys. You should be able to, even if you don't like what they say, you should be able to speak your mind, and we should all have to hear it, and everyone gets their opinions. Obviously, if we're talking about bad things that could annihilate people, it's a different story, but we're talking about people's opinions on how things work in life and who they are and how things function. We have to support that. So that's where we are with the Bauer lawsuit, still going through that.
Next question.
Distance running or interval training. Yes, we do a lot of it. What are your thoughts on? Well, we don't. Oh yeah. It's a contrast. Okay.
Fast, so you got to read it.
Sorry. I know. So interval training is probably what I heard. So yeah, that's obviously a lot better approach. So that's old school, guys. Distance running has been really poo-pooed for a while. I think everyone's pretty much trained.
There should be a nail in the coffin at this point for baseball.
That's probably the first thing that has changed to the new school of science.
Right.
Is the distance running. And if your coaches are still doing, oh my God, they're dinosaurs.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on snatches? We talked about that, something that you shouldn't do until you have really strong upper body. There is a study that showed that pitchers had weaker shoulders than the average public. So I'm very cautious with snatches with my pitchers until they get their strength and their upper body's really good. Yeah, you know your rights. Love it, Brent. Turn it into a libertarian. I sound like one. Go for it. I'm not going to get into politics, but I get it. When are you guys coming to Denver? Dude, let's go right now.
That'd be super down.
We'll love it, Spencer. He's out there with Tom Deeden. Tell Tom to get us out there. That's where we'll go. Brad says preaching. What's up, brother?
Brad Weber.
The UCL ligament tear, what do you recommend? Oh, it's a tough one, dude. I would recommend you learning why it happened. I would recommend the biomechanical link to the injury. I would recommend the training link to the injury, the diet link to the injury. It's all linking to it. Joint mobility. And just come back even better. Here's your boy.
Steve, that lettuce. Chris, you're a tasty little snack, my friend.
What's up, Bill? I still see some coaches telling pitchers to do pulls after they pitch. Primitive, I'm wrong. Thanks, guys. All right, well, let's start closing it up. What do we got there? What do we miss?
Oh my gosh, I got a lot more. Does arm length and shoulder width affect velocity?
I love you, Dad.
Yes. Leverage.
Congrats.
Thoughts on reverse lunges for pitchers and what should a 17-year-old be aiming for? Reverse lunges, good. What should a 17-year-old be aiming for? I don't know. What do you mean by that? Like on weight or velocity? I don't know what you're asking there. Ways to gain mass: strength training, pair it with nutrition, caloric surplus. Topvelocity.net/nutrition.
Okay. Joe Bateman, he's a year off TJ. Never coached to do Olympic lifts. So David Ardsma, great example, came to us a year off TJ. Chris Medlin came to us a couple years off TJ. We even had Trevor Rosenthal, year off TJ. He wasn't catching though. David took some time. I will take time with them off the TJ because a lot of them use their loose flexion to get comfortable and better with the lifts, but it's a mobility issue, strength issue. But yeah, he needs that. He just needs good coaching to get him through those humps, through that beginner phase, and really build a good base. C says, I sent money to support this cause, the First Amendment. Thanks, brother. Couldn't have done it without you. Always got our back. What else? Anything we missed? We need to shut this thing down. Man, this is crazy.
What about a sumo deadlift?
We do sumo deadlifts. I do them. So why I like the sumo deadlifts because it's a wide stance, so you're getting in more into the distance of like your stride. So I like them, but I mean, I like all versions of a deadlift.
From Japan, I had a friend who went there with an injury and needed help. He is now throwing 145 kilometers. Before he was throwing 130 kilometers. I will be coming to a camp soon.
Oh my God,
Testimonial
that's
all
Alex.
the way from Japan.
That's Alex.
Yeah.
That's Alex.
I remember him.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to hear that. Congratulations. I think that's Alex.
Like I remember he was the yeah, I remember him.
I'm so excited to hear that. Say that, read it again.
Man. Okay, from Japan, I had a friend who went there with an injury and needed help. He is now throwing 145 kilometers per hour.
Convert that, Steven.
Before he was I'm gonna have a Siri right now.
I think 9, it's close. Yeah, do Siri.
Brent,
I think it's close to 90. Is it close to 90 or is it over 90?
Convert 145 kilometers per hour to miles per hour.
Dude, this is exciting. I'm just so excited. I love Japan. We've been always wanting to get
90.1 miles
90.
90.
Dude, he's
Testimonial.
a testimonial.
Wow.
I'm so fired up.
All the way from Japan, dude. That's freaking sick.
That's awesome. So we want more Japanese guys.
Yeah, or Koreans, or
Yes,
you know,
we love our Koreans.
anywhere in Asia.
We need more Japanese guys. We haven't had enough.
I can't talk about it, but I had a blast, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm 17, throwing 80. What can I do? Life heavy is try. I
Lift
don't
heavy?
know that.
Lift heavy?
I don't know. He says life heavy is try. I don't know what that means. Maybe
Keep going,
lift heavy
keep
is
going.
try.
Just
oh
fly
no,
through
he's
it.
saying I lift. He's saying I lift. I'm 17, throw 80. What
Look,
can I do? I
Francis.
lift heavy.
Look, Francis just said it too. That's the kid that rolled his ankle when I was there. Remember when Alex rolled his ankle?
Way to
That
go,
is, you're
way
right.
to go, Francis. You guys were the ones getting him into single leg jumps.
Look,
I remember
Francis.
that.
Then Francis goes, "That's 90."
Oh my god.
Dude, it's like we're all around the world, but we feel like we're in the same room right
Yeah,
now.
well, that is a good point because you shouldn't start doing plyometrics, advanced plyometrics, until you're at least 1.5 times in your strength. And he wasn't there, and Francis started having him do single leg jumps, and he rolled his ankle.
So what'd you say to
Sprain,
Francis?
strains, and tendonitis. But
Is that why Francis is saying that? Because he's the one who made
yeah,
him roll his
yeah,
ankle?
I like come on because you remember he did roll his ankle.
I know,
and
he was
like,
devastated.
what happened? And he was like, I was doing single leg jumps, and I was like, Francis, gosh dang it. Okay. When are you guys coming down to Denver? I already answered that one. If I try to throw hard, I will throw. Or okay, well let me answer. Or let's answer this because I'm 17. I throw 80. I lift heavy. What can I do? I'll answer it. You need to have a lot more information than one just lifting heavy. You got to be looking at your joint mobility. You got to be looking at your biomechanics. You got to be looking at your nutrition. You got to be looking at your speed, strength, and power. That's the benefits of coming down here, is getting an assessment, getting in our database so we can really get a good look at where you need to improve, where's the low-hanging fruits, so we can get you going in the right direction.
Still so excited for Alex,
Yeah.
man. I'm just so fired up right now. Like,
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
think, because to be honest, this guy comes all the way from Japan. He sits here. He's really homesick. I saw him walking down the street. I had to pick him up and take him. I felt so bad for the guy. Like, he was really lost in this
Culture, right?
Yeah, this BFE out here, right?
Right.
And he stuck it through. And look at this. Like, that's an exciting testimonial.
And if you
from
know
Japan.
Nelson and Francis and you're training with them, he must have been like, what the heck is America?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who are these guys?
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay. If I try to throw hard, will I throw hard, or do I stay loose? Okay. If I try to throw
Okay.
hard, will I throw hard?
Opinions of Dr. Heenan's 90-mile-per-hour formula.
Um,
Oh, we're about to lose it there.
oh man.
No, it says pause. Oh, that was it. No, that was it. We were only too long. All right. Well, you know what, guys? This was great. We got. We'll get back up. We're just gonna do this every Fridays. It keeps going good. Maybe Steven will want to be here again. Maybe he'll be getting a haircut. Me too.
I'm not getting a haircut.
But let's save it for next time. Pretty excited how this went. Live stream Fridays, and I don't know next Friday we'll be there. But we're going to ABCA in January. Going to Napa. We need more people at the Napa camp. So check out the Napa camp. Topvelocity.org. See you next time, guys. This was great.
Yeah, it was fun, guys.